Welcome to the Scendent Master Your Mindset podcast, where we learn from top performers and elite achievers how to excel beyond belief and go further than was previously believed before.
Here we go. Welcome to episode 2 of Scendent's Master Your Mindset podcast. Today we are here with the amazing, the wonderful, the Gabriel Lewis. A renowned person who's been a big brother, a mentor, and seen me grow and develop through an interesting period of life, would you say not?
Oh, massively. I think when 8 years ago.
Yeah, do you remember the first day we met?
Yeah, I do. Well, I remember meeting you before you realised I
was aware of you.
So I'm a face person, so I saw you walking down the corridor at the practice, and I was like, oh, that guy looks quite interesting. And then I noticed you were wearing a Supreme t-shirt one time, and then I saw you in your school uniform another time, then I saw you in some other stuff, and I was like, I like that stuff too. And then,
I remember walking into the practice the first time, because I'd seen your other partner, Michaela, in the practice, and then seeing you for the first time, we went, that's a nice Supreme shirt. And I remember thinking, how the heck does this guy know what Supreme is? Like,
wow.
Yeah. Little did I know.
I was like, it's quite funny when I see clients and I'd be like, I'd wear that. Yep, I'd wear that. Oh, no, I wouldn't wear that.
Yeah. An interesting one. I was thinking on it then. I was like, what title would you give yourself? Would you say Chiro, business owner, creative? You do so many things. You wear so many hats.
So many hats, but at the moment, just one.
Yeah.
So I'm a dad first and foremost, husband. I'm a twin. I happen to own a business, and I'm a chiropractor in a profession that I feel very fortunate to be a part of, and I don't really feel like I work a day in my life, to be honest. It's more of a purpose and a place I've got to be, rather than actually, like, you know how people go, oh, I've got to go to work, oh, it's Monday. I'm just like, okay, it's just somewhere I've got to be.
And you have that energy about you too. You carry that in what you do. Everyone, from being in the waiting room to being in getting care with you, you hear those laughs, you hear that engagement, and you know, business is booming.
Thank you. I actually thought it'd be kind of funny once to kind of just record myself, just see how much I laugh throughout the day. It'd be funny.
Like a time lapse?
Just a time lapse of how much I laugh, and then just actually doing a time, like start, stop, recording how long I'm laughing throughout the day. It'd be quite a lot.
Definitely.
But then it'd be kind of like one of those awkward ones, because one of my mates, Seth Gorry, he always like, oh, you sound like a seal. When I really get going. But yeah, no, it's sick.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, I love being a chiropractor though.
My favorite question that I've really been getting into at the moment, and this isn't the first time we've had this podcast, this is actually round 2 for one reason and another, but what is your earliest memory? And things I've learned from asking this question with people is it speaks a lot about you as your character, because typically it's very emotionally charged in one way, shape or form, and that's why it's still in our memories, you know? So what is that first memory for you, Gabs?
So it's the same memory that I had the first time. So that is just sitting down playing with my twin on this particular table. That's my first profound memory, but then we weren't speaking at that age, so I think we're about 3.5, but I remember being able to communicate fully to Israel, even though we weren't talking. So
like non-verbal cues, or what do you mean?
Just every single, I thought we were talking by that stage, but we weren't. I just remember kind of the look or whatever. We just had our own language, and even now my twin can look at me and look there, and then we'll know exactly what we're talking about. So we're not a good a good pair to go against in Pictionary. Let's just say.
You already know what each other. Or charades.
No, charades not so good, but Pictionary. Oh, charades we're pretty good actually.
Yeah.
In saying that though, but we're more of a Pictionary kind of thing. I'm a drawer, so Pictionary we were undefeated. So
Yeah.
But then in saying that though, I was thinking about it earlier, and I do remember this earlier time, and it was but it's not on the forefront when you think early memory, but when you look at like a photo, and it was a time before then, I remember being there.
So you got prompted for this memory from the photo.
So it's like, I remember being there. And that was when we were like really little, going down hit a park when we were at a different property in Christchurch. And we had this big German Shepherd dog at the time. And I remember jumping over the fence, and then another time playing on the swings there, getting pushed in the swings when I was really little. So they would be my earliest memories, but it's always with my twin, obviously. There's
this saying, and it's weird hearing for me that you're a twin, because something I've discovered through life is I've had a connection to twins. My first best friend was a twin. You're a twin. One of my bosses, twin as well. One of my work colleagues, a twin that died in utero. I've had these big connections to twins, and the thing I've picked up on from then, it's almost like a twin telekinesis in a way where you don't have to be communicating, but you kind of know it.
Yeah.
Have you had any other kind of experiences with that where there's like the twin instinct or something like that going on?
Heaps, a lot. The biggest one that probably would have been the most buzzy one when you think about it. We never used to play with each other when we were at primary school.
Oh, okay.
And I would be just do our own things. We were in different classes. We were always separated. But one lunchtime, he was trying to find me profusely, and he didn't stop. He spent almost the whole hour trying to find me, and he couldn't find me. But then what happened was he found me, but I just hurt myself and badly. So I slipped on the stepping stones, and I missed my step, slipped, face full of blood. First person I saw was Izzy.
Wow.
So
he knew.
He knew. So it was one of those things.
How old were you when that happened? Primary school days.
I think we would have been about 7 at the time. Yeah, so young. Yeah, very young. But it was cool.
Yeah.
Some things you can't explain.
No, I think there's a lot of things.
Well, a lot of things you can't explain.
Yeah.
And you don't need to either.
Nah.
But the simplest way to explain it to people is like you think of somebody and then you happen to get a call from them, or you see them and you're like, explain it. You can't.
Yeah. So talking on those early childhood memories, what do you think some of the most profound things that happened in your childhood that made you who you are today? What would be some of those core beliefs you have, or those core values that happened in childhood that you think have built you into who you are?
My parents are a big part of my mindset and belief structure.
Yeah.
We were always told we can achieve things, and we may not have had the easy route. It was just more about, okay, well, it's a challenge. We never heard, no, you can't. It's more like, okay, how are you going to achieve it? So we were pretty naturally gifted at sports and athletic ability, and then we both knew we were quite smart. But then in saying that though, I was put in the special reading kids class as well. So I knew I didn't belong there, and I knew I wasn't in the class for long, but I was put there anyway. I would say just that self-belief, which is a big part, and I think it's a pivotal part for most people, because if you think you can achieve something, you can.
Definitely.
That's the first part, and then what you need to do is just keep going and not want it straight away. Just know that you're going to continually chip, and then you'll always get to your goal. It's just a matter of when.
Not having limiting beliefs.
Big time, because obviously limiting beliefs, it's called limiting belief for a reason.
Yeah.
So you want to really just make sure that you're clearing those belief systems out.
Did you find growing up that some people who didn't have that belief, did you try and kind of negotiate with them, like, hey, you're limiting yourself, and what would you kind of say to people like that?
No, I didn't bother with them, nor did I know that I just had a very strong belief structure. Inherently, I didn't realize that it's not a common thing. I just thought everybody thought like how I did. And it does help, like, when you're naturally good at sport and you need to go and perform, and you do. So then you keep doing it. So you work hard, you perform, you get the result. So then it just picks up granite.
You get a reward from that.
You get a reward.
In one way, shape, or form. You want to do it more.
Okay, let's work hard. Let's do that. It was never like setting goals that I wasn't capable of. But let's say, for example, I was not a long distance runner. I would never set goals. I'm going to win the long distance cross country, because I knew it wasn't my strong suit.
Yep.
You know, so whereas if it was, well, I'd be seeing myself up for failure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. My set was like, let's do the cross country and not stop, and that was a big win.
So cycling back to the dyslexia part, I think that's super foundational that you didn't let that limit you. How did you kind of work to overcome that? Because text everywhere, you know, you have to read or understand things in one way, shape, or form.
I didn't know that I was dyslexic until I was at uni.
How did you find out?
Had a friend at the time said, hey, a friend's mum said, hey, I think you should get tested. And then I did. And then it was like, oh. But then by that stage, I had figured out how I learn anyway. So
how to work around it in a sense.
And at uni, it was like where YouTube was booming. So it had the Khan Academy online, which is amazing. And so I used to watch.
Is it still up to this day?
It's still up. And it's still one of the biggest channels too. But it's like Mr. Beast, but for the educational purposes. So it's phenomenal, but it was complex things that we needed to know in a visual format, and it made sense of it rather than being a whole pile of individual segmented pictures, and you don't see how the picture goes together, and you're like, oh, this makes sense, and you're like, okay, I get it now. So that was really cool when I was at uni and figured that out, which was cool.
So do you think you leaned to pivot on your skills and your strengths that you had more, or did you try and improve what you found were your weaknesses or areas you weren't as strong in?
No, I just focused on my strengths.
Why do you think you did that? Because there's two approaches, right? Like,
well, to be honest, like I know, like, safe in terms of sports, okay, you could focus on your weaknesses and get okay.
Yeah.
Or you could focus on your strengths and become a beast in that space. So say, for example, if you've got a serve in tennis that nobody can return, why not hone it? You know,
make it even better.
Make it even better.
I see.
Whereas if you go, oh, I'm going to work on my backhand, when you've got a serve that's now, instead of could have been unreturnable, it gets returned 9 times out of 10, and you're hoping to win on your weakness. What's the point?
Yep.
So
there's no point in being well-rounded. It's better to be.
You're aware of your strengths, and you're aware of your weaknesses. It's not ignoring it. It's just focusing the attention towards it. So say, for example, like I played basketball and had so many other people on the team that were amazing shooters, amazing on offense. I was a point guard, but I was phenomenally good at intercepts and assists. everybody else were phenomenal shooters. So what was the point of me focusing on shooting really, really well to be just as good as them, and then I'd be in competition with them? Whereas if I'm actually not focusing on that and I'm focusing on how I can serve them better and serve other people better around me on my team, or get the intercepts and be like a defense specialist and assist, I'm invaluable. So you've put yourself on the team when you would have been on the bench. So that's how I just kind of always focus towards my strengths, because naturally I'm quick. So guess what? I'm quick. Let's use it. Or you use your strengths and kind of make it better.
How did you start to identify what your strengths were in one side sporting, but more so academic as well?
I didn't realise until we went to school in Barbados when we were 12. We went on a world tour and we went to school in Barbados, and the Barbados schooling system is incredibly advanced and challenging. So when they're intermediate, everybody needs to do a test, and basically...
Unit standard kind of thing?
Unit standard, but basically at intermediate, it's really important that you do well on this test, because if you don't do well, it will limit the school that you'll be able to go to. Now, all schools on the islands ranked from 1st to 30th. Any school in the top 5 is phenomenally good. And what happened is, from that point on, after that schooling test, you're then ranked every single year in every single subject from first to last. So it's a ruthless system.
That sounds dog eat dog, really.
It's dog eat dog. So when we
I
first
think
moved...
that competitive nature is always good, though. Like, I
good.
believe it breeds the best out of people to a degree. You know?
To a degree. If you have a good, solid... I think it's always better in saying that, though, because...
Participation awards.
Yeah, no participation awards. You will see your effort get rewarded through hard work and determination. So we were behind. The New Zealand schooling system was behind considerably. So when we went there...
What year kind of time frame was this? Just like keeping this in mind.
When we were 12, quite some time ago. It'll still be behind in comparison.
Because we kind of have a narrative here that we're ahead in some ways. But
well, let's just say when I moved back to New Zealand, I was still doing the certain maths that I was doing when I was 16 here. I already knew it and learnt it from 12.
Wow.
So
that speaks volumes.
So we had to get up to steam. So we had private tutor in Barbados, and it was learning another language. We've never seen the stats or calculus or all the formulas that they needed to use. We'd never come across it before. So it was a bit of a bright awakening, but we thrived in that kind of environment. And actually the funny thing was, things that I thought I wasn't very good at, like English literature, which is interpretation of
text,
English
poems,
language and stuff like that, was actually really high, whereas before I was in the special reading kids class. So it was one of those things that was like, oh, I thought I was dumb in this. Oh, obviously not. Well, this proves my point.
Yeah.
You know?
It would have been a warming thing too.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I got that.
Yeah. But in Barbados, I was really good at art. So I was phenomenally good at art. And so that was my highlight piece. I was always at the top in the class there. So I knew my strengths, and then I just, from those strengths and having that self-belief, I was able to kind of grow all my other papers. So we ended up being in the top, from in the bottom third to the top by the end of the year. So, but yeah, top at art.
Yeah, it sounds like cool. You've gone... like you said, you've done a world tour of where you've like had education from down in, it was Dunners, right?
Oh, we did Dunedin for uni.
Yeah.
Grew up in Christchurch.
Yeah, Christchurch, sorry.
And then Barbados. And yeah. Auckland, and here. Well, not here. We didn't learn here, but now we
Through these travels, how did you go around with making friends and connections when you're kind of moving all over the place? And
to be honest, it's never something I've ever thought about, to be honest. It was pretty easy, to be honest. Like,
we've got that character about you know what I mean?
It's pretty easy, just be a nice person and everything kind of works. You don't need to kind of prove yourself to anybody else that you're not, and just be yourself, and if people like you, cool, if not, cool. You know, I think that's one thing inherently that was good about us, but one thing, we're always really good at sports. So you naturally made friends, and they naturally want you on their team because you are really good at sports.
What sports did you play? I know there's a portfolio, but
everything.
Yeah, rattle it off.
So we grew up dancing.
Yes.
Tap dancing was the main one, and then we've done jazz, hip hop, and ballet. We were meant to go professional in those. I've played tennis, rugby, a little bit of soccer, cricket. My twin was really good at cricket. I was better at tennis. Just basically, you name a sport, we've played it. Yeah, so like first game of hockey, scored 5 goals, kind of thing. Oh, we play roller hockey too.
Roller hockey as well.
My twin wanted to both play ice hockey, but it was too expensive, so we play roller hockey because it required nothing.
Inline hockey.
It was inline hockey. Yeah. So it was before the time. It was actually just as Mighty Ducks kind of got released. And you didn't have to have all the ice hockey pads. So you could just have knee pads and play your game.
You're just running it like, yes.
So we're like, yes, this is in our affordability. So it was cool. No, we loved it.
Well, what other things do you think you picked up from mum and dad? And I actually don't know this, but what did your mum and your dad do? How do they spend their time?
So mum and dad were incredibly hard workers. So dad was a carpenter. Their finishing was detail, or the finishing specialist. And then mum was a pattern maker designer. So those pants that you loved.
My favourite pair of pants.
She probably had her hand in at some point in time in their pattern working with Kathmandu. So she's worked with lots of big companies. Macpac, Kathmandu, CCC.
All in that hike terrain kind of area?
Just in the New Zealand brand kind of when they're needing a specialist pattern maker designer, that's who.
So you think you got the creative side from mum and then that attention to detail and side from dad?
Bit of both. Dad's really creative too. He played music and kind of just did whatever he'd want to do anyway. So both. I'd say a good combination would be.
What was the hardest lesson you had to learn growing up?
Hardest lesson.
Sometimes it can be something that repeats itself. You know?
I just had to stick up for myself and know my own worth. So as you probably knew or aware of, I had lots of fights growing up. So it would be sticking up for myself, and in hindsight, looking back, in the time I thought it was fine, but looking back, and I still think it's fine, but looking back, a lot of people would be like, oh, that was hard. Yeah. Probably that would be the hardest part, but like I wouldn't want my kids to kind of have to navigate that, but I'm glad I did, and it wasn't somebody else, if you get what I mean.
Yep. Do you think some of those lessons you've learned in childhood you're trying to pass on to your 3 kids, and you're not thinking about more?
No more kids.
Three's enough?
Three's done. I don't need a zoo. I'd say definitely those lessons, like working hard. And the cool thing is we're out here working on the property and doing lots of little things. And
and even where are we now?
in the compound.
For those who don't know, what is the compound?
The compound is my relaxation space.
It's the ultimate man shit. In reality.
It's basically I had this putting all things I absolutely love into one space where I can just kind of come into, be by myself most of the time and just kind of, potter.
Potter, clear the mind.
Potter. I'm a big potterer.
You've termed it to me as active relaxing.
I'm definitely an active relaxer.
Yeah.
Big time. And today we had I think it would have been a 10-hour day working around the property. But
for context, it's a 100-year-old. Is it a 100-year-old villa that you've decided
70-year-old villa
to reno for the last, since I've known you.
Yeah. So we're doing other jobs and we changed our mind with certain things. We're making a bigger fire pit area. So Abby was right at the first time. She was like, we should just go that way, and I was like, nah, let's do it this way. We want to keep lots of grass, and she was right. So I'm doing it the right way now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're both big active relaxers.
I learned that from you,
Yeah.
active relaxing.
Yeah. Well, it's as long as your mind's switched off and you're completely present in what you're doing, it's actually relaxing, even though you're doing something.
I think of it as those autonomous tasks that you don't really need to think about doing. Like for me, it's cleaning. If I need to clean something up, I can just listen to a podcast, put my headphones in, do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
And that's therapeutic to a degree.
I think for me, it's just not looking at the time. Not looking at the time and just completely doing. And then before you know, like, holy moly, I've got to stop. So and that will often happen in here. I'll be pottering around throughout the night or trying to get something done. The next job's whipping that engine out.
Would you say it kind of gets you into a flow state sometimes?
Yeah, definitely a flow state, but it's also just like just doing things and you're just by yourself. It's just nice. So, but
especially when it's the busyness of life, you know what I mean? And doing so many things like I know you do.
But I think a lot of people don't have times to kind of have to themselves, and I think it's really important to do.
How do you schedule that time in or balance that out for yourself? Is it a calendar? Is it,
No, it's challenging. I do call it non-negotiables.
Non-negotiables.
I've given it a name.
Yeah.
It is challenging at times, especially when you've got busy practice and kids and stuff like that, and somebody always wants something from you. But it's also being like how I've kind of mitigated that kind of feeling of, say, resentment or something like that. Say, for example, if I want to spend time or do something here and the kids want to come in, I'm like, well, it's kind of cool that they want to come in and spend time with me.
Of course.
So you kind of just go, instead of going, I just want to be by myself. And then I kind of like to come in here when I know they're asleep or something like that.
So you don't feel like you're getting pulled away
or I'm getting interrupted, and certain things I know I'll make sure I'm just doing certain tasks late at night. So, and I've always been a late night potterer, to be honest. I'm a late night person by heart. I quite like studying. Well, like when I was studying, I'd start studying at 10 p.m. because I knew nobody else was up, and then I wouldn't get distracted. So I'd get about 4 hours, 5 hours done, but it'd be like 2-3 times.
It is efficient.
Yeah. So I'd get a lot done in that time.
And it is catering to individuals. I think you have to find when you're most productive in those windows of time. For me, that I know that's between 11 and 1 to 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But then adjusting that to everyday life as well is the difficult part. You can't always have those focus periods, life gets in the way.
And it's not actually great for your nervous system doing it for a long period of time, but every now and then, so you can get some time to yourself, like quality time to yourself, and I've got to sleep in, do it. But if I was doing that all the time, like it was night shift, that wouldn't be beneficial.
Who do you think some of your biggest role models were growing up and today?
Alan Iveson.
Yeah?
He's the man. Peter Frosberg. All sportsmen.
Yeah.
All sportsmen. And yeah, all sportsmen.
Why do you think that is?
Well, think about it. Then I did hear this recently, and it makes perfect sense. Sportsmen are basically just following their dream.
Okay. Elaborate.
They had this goal at a young age, doing exactly what they're enjoying, they love, they're good at it, they're really good at it, and they turn it into a career. It's kind of cool. I'm like, that is really cool. So in terms of that level, I can understand why so many children have athletes as their
Those sports figures for what they do.
because they're there they're kicking a ball and then they're on the field. And I remember we'd all pick ourselves off. I'm John Alamo, I'm Christian Cullen, all the greats. So which would be cool.
When did you pull these role models up? Because I'm assuming this is early childhood role models, or have these changed?
They've always changed. So obviously it was like the John Alamo when you were younger. Christian Cullen's a big one. They're just people that stand out doing what they love and what they're good at, and focused on their strengths and hone them, to be honest. So yeah.
When did you pick some of these role models? And how did you
I
pick them?
I picked them. I think they picked themselves. So wouldn't ever thought, it's just you're inspired by something. Have you ever gone around and you're like, didn't think I'd be inspired by that, but I am. I think that's the kind of way that role models pick themselves, really. There's something about them. Sometimes you can't even.
You're drawn to them.
You can't. You can't even describe the reason why, but they are. And then it'd be a bit different now into the motorsport stuff, and it's more of not necessarily a person.
I wouldn't
or
have
a
guessed you
thing.
into motorsports.
No, not at all. Anything with the engine, really. So even it doesn't even have to be like an individual per se, but like a collective, even groups I'm often inspired by, or even a person. Yeah, lots of things.
What do you do when you get inspired by something? Is it you try and implement elements of that into yourself, or is it you take that creative flair onto things? What is it?
Definitely don't try to bring elements of that myself. It might be the fact I'm getting inspired because I kind of highlight the facts of, they're doing stuff that I like and that's what I'm into, or I'm often inspired by probably the parts of myself that I like, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, it's always interesting having chats to you. You always think about things in a different perspective.
Yeah, I do. Well. I'm the master of asking good questions, is what I've figured it out.
Very good questions. I was like,
Put you on the back foot, eh?
Well, it's not a back foot, but I've got my tap shoes. I was ready for this.
He was good to dance.
So I was expecting this, but no, it's I think inspiration, you can get drawn into inspiration, but I think the common thing about inspiration, it's obviously trying to grow and do better.
Yes, the growth mindset is fundamental.
So that's technically the basis of it. So if you think about that, it's pretty easy to get inspired every day by something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as you've transversed through, I don't like to say a working career, but I like to say a learning career in some ways, what are some of those stepping stones you've gone from? So you've got Christchurch, Barbados. What were those stepping stones?
There was a few stepping stones that made me realise, obviously academically, I'm way more than capable. And some were in Barbados, which was really awesome.
That kindled that.
And then another one was I was the guinea pig year of NCA as well. And then I was also, so I did some papers ahead.
What year was that? Would that have been level one?
It was back in the day when it was
School
the
C,
first year.
yeah.
So I had bursary and all those. So it was a bit interesting. I got to experience both because I was ahead for some papers, ahead a whole year. So I'd do the old system and then I'd be back in the normal year and I'd be the guinea pig. And sometimes you'd cross over. So both had its merits. The old system was better for a personal aspect, but they're not as well.
What do you mean by that, by personal aspect?
It did depend on the level of school you'd go to. It would depend on your overall grade.
Okay.
So depending on how good the year did beforehand with the grades would depend on how many 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5 they've got to fill out. So we were, it's a real, it was a interesting, and it wasn't actually a fair system from that aspect. However, it was more individually focused rather than trying to get merits and achieve. But chatting to students now, I think they ironed out a lot of the crap with NCA because I remember getting every single question right in a test, but I got one wrong and I failed.
What test was that? Do you remember?
Statistics. And
The
my
numbers
teacher,
didn't add up.
My teacher was like, Gabriel, do you realize you made a mistake here? I was like, no. He was like, you wrote the wrong number down, even though he first actually asked me to do, hey Gabs, can you do this formula for me? Did it perfectly fine. He was like, did you realize you did it in the exam wrong? He was like, no, I got a number around the wrong way. And he was pissed off and he was like, you know what, stuff this, marked it down, excellence.
That's the one.
He's like, I'm not doing this. He was like, whereas some people in our year as well were achieving, not in our year at our school, another school in Christchurch was on national news for their students getting merit credits for picking up rubbish on school grounds. So
Wow.
So they've ironed out a lot of kinks.
Yeah, what is that? I remember being in school and hearing you could get credits for learning how to start a lawnmower and thinking, okay, this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Even though they were unit standard, I'm still thinking, what's kind of going on here?
Yeah. Look, do I think everybody should be at uni? No. Do I think uni's that great? No. Do I think the only place for uni is if you actually need the degree in order to do what you want to do, then there's the place for the uni. Otherwise, there's got all the information out there and nobody cares. They care about your work ethic and how you turn up to do the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'd say in today's time, it's actually quite challenging to get people that are motivated to kind of come in and do the job and do it well and do what they say, you know? I know it seems weird and it seems a bit old school, but the old hard work pays off. It says it on the hat.
And it's a compound hat too.
It doesn't really come across so much these days, I find.
The thing I think of about when I think back to school, I think it has a place, right? There's some structure, you learn the foundations, but after that, the example I learned after leaving school was at 16, if I had dropped out, been a sparky versus being a doctor, by the time I would be the age I am today, I'd be earning over $100,000 a year. I could have my own business set up, which is then expanding what I could reach. The person who went into med school, and I know I have a friend like that actually, and he's like a twin to me of anything, and he's still paying off his student loan. So being coached into uni, which is how the schooling system's more so structured today, I wish I'd known that was an option, because I would have went, I don't need a degree for what I want to do. Why not give it a crack?
Yeah. You've got nothing to lose. This is the catch. And
Precisely.
You've just got to back yourself at some point and have that self-belief to kind of take the step that you need to take.
Yeah.
That's the catch. It's
What made you decide to go to uni and to study?
my twin tore as a doctor.
Elaborate again, please.
Okay, it was a cold night in Christchurch, freezing cold, and we were at a very high level that we were doing actually showbiz Christchurch shows, which is adult shows, while we're in teenagers, and it had a few of us teenage dancers that were very good, that they'd get us to do the adult shows. So we were all in high school still, but we were doing shows at night time for town hall all
Wow.
the time. So it was quite cool. But one time at my twin, it was a very, very cold night. At the time we could have done the splits all three ways very comfortably. Without warming up, he just went straight down in the splits, which actually wasn't that big of a thing.
Okay. Because I was thinking, like, shouldn't you always warm up?
We were very, very flexible that it was that was just, we could go down from boom, because we're that flexible. However, it was freezing cold. And he went down and he was wearing jeans and it sounded like jeans ripped. And then he got back up. We both looked at the inseam, and his jeans weren't ripped. It was his adductor. So at that time
That gives you the wheezies, doesn't it? It's just like...
I still remember the sound now, and the look on his face, and the position, and yeah, it was interesting. But it's...
So there you realised...
Well, at that time we were probably going to be, would have been a high likelihood that we would have done something dancing related. We had already been approached to go dance professionally in Australia and overseas by somebody very, very good. But yeah, so that was our trajectory
at the time.
And then we got to thinking, actually, if we injure ourselves, we've got 6 months where we're not earning any money. And then we got to thinking, it was like, well, let's go get a degree first, we're smart, and I don't want to do teaching after dancing. So
That's the kind of career path from what you've told me.
it's the career path tends to be. And obviously it's got like different paths as well. Like it's got your Paris Goebels who's doing phenomenal things in dance and stuff like that, and she's set up a very big choreography pathway, but that's kind of like your Izzy Adesanya.
Yep.
You know, how many Izzy Adesanyas are there in the world? One.
Yeah,
You know,
I
so
get you. So you've had this injury, you've had to pivot, and then how did that go into getting to where you are now?
So at
Cairo?
the time, I actually was wanting to be, I was like, actually, I'll become an aircraft engineer.
So dancing to
So
planes.
I was like, oh, I'll do aircraft engineer. At the time, even though I was in like metal tech at school, I made like little car battery charger and I figured out how to, everybody made huge ones and I wanted it small and little, and it was so small the teacher was like, you can't have it that small. And I was like, yeah, I can. And then I didn't listen to him and I did it really small, but the catch around it, I put a fan in it. So everything was super compact, so the fan drew the hot air out, so then I could get it to the size I wanted instead of going, no, you can't. So I love working with my hands. I love doing things. So at that time I thought that would be kind of cool.
Aircraft engineer, yeah.
Aircraft engineer it is. And then when I really looked into the aircraft engineer school in Christchurch, I realised they didn't earn enough.
So it came to a dollar figure, you're like, ooh.
Well, it does though when you think about it.
Yeah, especially at that age, because that's what you see when you look at the job. You know?
So it was like work, get a career, and at the time, 70 grand was still a lot, but it wasn't. It was comfortable and it was good, but it wasn't like.
Wasn't what you wanted.
No, it's got the ceiling to it. Whereas I like the endless possibilities, if you get what I mean.
The endless possibilities.
Well, when you're a business owner, if you fail, it's your fault. If you succeed,
true.
If you succeed, well done. You know, so that's realistically, and obviously when you're doing that kind of role, you'll tend to be kind of working for one of the big carriers. And then I was like, I like the body, I like working with people. So then I was looking into med, and that was my route that I was actually going down until I had a friend when we were studying together. We used to kill it and do really well together. And he was like, "Have you looked into chiropractic?" And I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Chiro what?
Yeah, actually, that was my words. And I was
way.
and then I looked into it, and because at the time my understanding about the body was just opening up, and I started seeing how interrelated everything was. So it was like a real big eye opener, and I was like, that makes perfect sense. I really get it. And then applied, got in, and the lucky thing is it started before med did. So I was like, well, what do I have to lose?
It's kind of giving you a sign, like, give this a try.
Yeah, give us a try. So, and then I was like, well, if I like it, great. If I don't, I'll go back down to Otago. And loved it. Yeah, so it was cool. So end of the first day, I was like, whoa, this is dope. And then end of the first week, my mum was blind, and my twin was actually looking into doing dentistry.
Really?
And then he decided to I told him about the chiropractic thing, and then
He jumped on the bandwagon too.
Yeah, so we're both chiropractors, Dr. Lewis. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. So, and he's got a practice over in Sydney, working over there called Brain to Body, and it's awesome.
You were over in Sydney for a bit, weren't you?
Yeah, we were over there for a little bit, for a few years.
And you met your partner Abby, wife, I should say.
Yeah.
Through Chiro as well.
Yeah, she's a chiropractor too.
How did that go the first time you met? You've told me the story.
Oh,
Bits and
she was just
pieces.
in my class, and then just in my class, and then just later on, once we were
Parties or?
No, we didn't party. We just studied together, and then kind of were studying together, and then realised that we kind of liked each other.
There was a bit of
that
chemistry
simple.
there. Yeah.
So that was that.
You had chemistry and bio.
Well, let's just say I was pretty good at physics. I've got papers to prove. I'm in at uni at physics.
Yeah, I'm just nodding along.
I just need to give you
got
an
it over
awkward joke.
I'm used to hearing the awkward jokes with you from over the years. Oh man, you have a wicked sense of humour from the puns you come up with from time to time in the practice.
But the thing is, though, my humour isn't actually funny, but I'll just take humour out of the kind of individual moments, so to speak. So
You find those limelights.
If you go, oh, tell me a joke, I'm like,
Panic.
I don't know any.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's good fun. So,
how did you get into creative aspects as well? Because I know you've had this Chiro, but you also have this artistic talent, and I know this has kind of followed you through with what you do even till today. How did that go through uni with that creative talent? You studied design a little bit too, eh?
Yeah, at uni. I needed some point papers, so I did kind of design there, and that was actually really cool. That actually made me realize how good I was actually at design. And that was the same thing. I'd be getting I only did like a couple semesters in it for points, but every single thing that I did except for one, which was the video aspect. And even I thought that video aspect that I'd made was kind of lame, to be honest. But I was really into the UFC, so I made this UFC video. So it was cool, but it was lame. It wasn't going to be like... I was like, if I'm sitting down editing all these videos, I want to at least be something that I like. So I was editing UFC videos and made a UFC video. But all the other aspects that I was doing... like I had very limited knowledge with how to use the technology.
Because it was Adobe Suite back then, eh?
It was Adobe Illustrator, and then it was some other kind of creative things as well. But because my knowledge was so limited, I had to get uber creative.
Using the 3 top tools.
So I had to get uber creative with my idea, and say for example, I had to make this packaging, and now you'll see it all the time.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like all color, like it was a thing. If you're doing packaging for a product, make it real bright, colorful, and everything. Back then was early 2000s, and I did a brown box with very fine black ink, and although like very, very simple and clean. And they were like, you can't do this. And I was like, why not? Like, it looked boring. No, you can't do this. This won't do very well. But the one thing that I kind of like about myself as well, when someone says I can't do it,
you want to do it even more.
No, it's not even I don't want to do it. I'm just like, you don't see what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing, it will work.
Where do you think that stems from? That's an interesting point. You know, wanting to get your perspective out.
Well, it's kind of like Elon Musk, like how he just does what he thinks is right because he can see it, and like you don't expect other people to see it from your perspective, but when you can see it and you know you can achieve what you think in your head
you
is
want to
right.
be able to create that.
And you know what the cool thing about that is as well? It doesn't matter if anybody else likes it. Like, I'm not doing it to please anybody else. I'm doing it to please me, because if I know I do it and I like it, it's great. But the thing with this concept, which I was doing, like, it was so plain and simple and basic that if it wasn't perfect, it wouldn't work. But it was perfect. And then it was used for examples. I got 99% or something for that, and then it was used for previous years for the example. And I had then another video that I needed to make a video. I didn't know how to make a video. I couldn't do anything.
You just winged it.
But then what I did a stop go to one of David Dallas.
Like a motion stop.
Motion stop. You need 10 frames per second. I'm just going to move real slowly, take lots of photos, and made it real dope.
That's a real
so,
knuckle dragger approach to it.
It was a knuckle dragger approach. I know how to take photos. Bam, 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 bam. And made it so super creative. And then it was one of those funny things. It was actually a really cool video at the time, and I tried sending it to David Dallas because he would have actually liked it, because everybody was like, that was dope. But I didn't even know how to like minimize it or make it smaller so I could send it. It was always too big and then it'd crash.
Over the years, I would think with your creative talent, you'd be very tech savvy. No, it's not the case.
I'm not tech savvy. I'm the ideas guy, and then I'd kind of go unless it's something hands on. And I'm touching it, but if it's behind a computer, I'm not. So I know my strengths.
There we go.
So
one of the big creative projects you told me about that's always stuck is that cover letter you did with the shoelaces. Can you tell me about that?
That was the second one, actually.
The second one?
the second cover letter. So at the time, I did a cover letter. I was working at, oh my God, like the Hollister kind of brand in Auckland.
Okay. Like a Just Jeans.
Just kind of a Just Jeans, but the Hollister kind of,
Okay.
oh my God, they got in trouble. Anyway, the names escape me. And so I was working general issue in Auckland, and while I was studying, and then another job came up that I saw that my girlfriend at the time was like, Gabriel, you should apply for this, you should go. It was top man at the department store. So what I did for the top man, and from my design stuff, my limited knowledge with design and being creative,
Dragger approach.
so I made a really cool cover letter, photo front. It was very creative, very simple, but basically from that, I had Carla and Atip Wanarix, who's two very creative people. They saw it, they hired me.
What was the cover letter exactly?
It was nothing about the normal CV. It was just the cover impact photo to kind of introduce me. But it wasn't a photo. It was like, so it's before it was done. This is the catch. All this stuff is very common nowadays, but this is back in the day where it wasn't done. And so I basically did a whole pile of images of the top man, kind of their whole ethos and brand and understanding. And then basically, I can't remember what I said, but I basically inversed it. So that was the font.
Oh, okay.
So I inversed it, so the font was actually the pictures of multiple collages that when you actually zoomed into it was like, holy fuck. So I can't remember what I said for it, or it could have been like Gabriel Lewis for top man, or something along those lines, but it was just that boom, impact. Okay, which one am I going to open first out of these 10s? That one.
Yeah.
That was it. So I got the job, and then from that, I actually got a lot of other design work from them while I was studying too, because Aita was very creative, and then because he was very creative, he'd ask a lot of people in the industry would ask him to do creative stuff, so then he'd always bring me on to kind of do some stuff. So we had this little dude where we had to Lumo photography, we had to make up a little guy or a little camera character, and we came up with Carl Lumofield. So he gave me the concept, and I went away and made it. Even got mum to make up like this little suit with the pan maker designing stuff. Like, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Tiny little suit in the Carl Lagerfeld kind of style, and it was, and I made the whole figurine, and it was perfect. And then did a whole pile of other stuff for Karen Walker while I was there as well. And then Brian Ebel was working for, was owned one of the Black Box there.
Box.
So it's one of the stores there in Auckland, and he was approached to open, I believe I've got the facts right, he was approached to open the flagship Nike store in Britomart, and then he asked if I'd come along to the team there. So I was doing that there with him, and then it happened to, this is down the line, he asked me, saw this other opening, and he's like, Gabs, you'd be great for this, apply. So that's when I did the cover letter. So yes, it's got the cover letter, but it's also about doing the hard work behind it. Definitely. And doing the kind of the background. Well. And so obviously Brian wouldn't have got me to come along if I wasn't nice or if I didn't work hard. So you can't just do the cover letter. So you've got to have the base behind it. Back it up. So yeah, the Nike one was kind of cool. So it was a job for Nike head office, going all around New Zealand and Australasia. It was awesome while I was studying. And it was so simple, but it was awesome. It was utter simplicity. It took me about 5 minutes to create, and it was fine. So at the time, they had this beautiful Nike Flyknit shoe. It was minimalistic, and it was very ahead of its time. So it had the Flyknit shoe, and then they had this picture of the lace that was just dragging off it. And then all I did was have my name, Gabriel Lewis, go into the lace. So simple, big white page, that all down the bottom. That was it. It was just a white page, Nike.
That always spoke volumes to me. I was like 17, you told me that story, 17, 16. And the narrative we'd been told at school is you write something really in depth with all this text detailing why. And I had this complete adverse story for you. I'm like, okay.
Nobody reads things. Nobody reads things. And how I remember things is visually. And if I'm even going to read it, it's got to catch my attention straight away.
Yep.
Like, straight away, right? And be like, ooh, okay. How about I look over and read the back page or whatever? Okay. Oh, yeah. That's great. It's awesome. Yeah, I'd be into that, but I still don't want to read it. But it's got to be visually appealing.
And it's just a different way of doing it, right? And for me, I think it speaks a lot more to who you are with how you can creatively come up with something. It depends on what job you're going for, right? But to show this is you, this is what I can do in a creative space, and then these are your accomplishments, because they're in there anyways.
They're so minor, but I think it's just like, it's not even a big thing or a big deal, but I think it's a good way to sum up what I'm like, if you get what I mean.
Absolutely.
They're not even like, it's not CV worthy or anything, but it's just a kind of a good summary of what I'm like as a person.
Yep. What do you think keeps you the most disciplined to working hard and to having those standards around yourself? Because it's something I think is starting to lack, as you mentioned prior. You know?
I think just doing things that provides you with joy, really. Like, know how yourself ticks and what really kind of gets it ticking, and then make sure you're kind of filling those spaces and kind of enjoying it as much. But it's easy. Like, I've got a job that I love, so I don't have to hide away from it or run away from it. Like, I don't need to take holidays because I'm doing something that doesn't feel like work. The only time I take holiday is spend time with my family, but I don't feel like I need to take a holiday.
Story I've heard you say was that lottery story.
Yeah.
Like, what would you do if you won the lottery?
Still work. I would still work. I would probably work a little less. Maybe take a couple days off. Might do some travelling in there. Yeah. But that's the thing. I would still be going to work every single day. I'd just be driving a different car to work. Yep. Each day.
If you weren't in that position, say, for whatever reason you had to switch careers, what would you switch into? You know?
Something creative. Something creative where, like, I could easily be a full-time racing car driver, content creator, and I would love to have this space where I'm just doing cool ass builds and the world's following me to kind of do those builds. That would be cool. I'll do it anyway. But if the world wanted to sponsor and so they could see more of it, fuck yeah, I'd be all about it. Like putting a Maserati engine in like a Polo Polo R5 kind of Volkswagen Polo R5 would be dope, or like lots of little things that kind of don't belong, or I'd like to do that kind of stuff, but I'll do that anyway. So that's still one of my goal cars to do. Maybe not a Maserati, but it'd be something odd that doesn't belong.
Something we touched on with I guess sports and health overall is, how do you keep you in the best shape you can be to keep doing everything you do?
So usually I've been a little bit slack for me. My non-negotiables been a little bit negotiated a little bit, but that's okay.
It happens.
It happens. So I've just focused on the kids. So basically what I was noticing, it was like my kids were growing up very quickly before I knew it. So I just wanted to kind of be more present. So the other catches is, at the moment, I'm focusing on their sports and what they're wanting to do and what they're wanting to achieve, and kind of helping them create it. So, as you do. So the other time, obviously you've got to look after yourself, which I do, but I do jiu-jitsu for that. So I've just had an injury.
Brown belt now, you can see it hanging there.
Yeah, brown belt. So I should have got my black, but I've just had to prioritise my family first. But that's okay.
On that topic of priorities, I guess it's kind of an easier way for me to frame it, is like, you've got family, but what are some of your other big priorities that you have for you?
Jiu-jitsu. Yeah, jiu-jitsu is a very big part of how I tick.
Why would you say that is?
I've grown up fighting, if you get what I mean. Yep. So I do enjoy it. All the things that I do seems to scare the living shit out of other people, but I find it very relaxing. Whether it's driving a car as fast as I can, or if it's you're about to get choked out, you're choking somebody out, or you're getting... Well, I don't like getting hit in the face, but I like hitting people.
I don't think anyone likes getting hit in the face.
Some people do, but...
Really?
Oh, they get hit a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, so that's maybe why, but... Yeah, no, I just think doing things like, I like fighting, I like that kind of challenge, but it's more of the mental challenge.
Yes.
But then I also today had a huge day on the property, and at the end of the day we were tired, but my wife and I were both humming, because she got heaps done in her kind of veggie garden spot, and I got heaps done on some other things, and we were kind of floating both outside, but kind of doing it in our own space. So it was cool. So just kind of having space with the family, the kids, and then I've got a whole pile of stuff to kind of start integrating training with the kids, where they can sit on the sled and I can start doing some work and do stuff that way too. Yeah, so, but the cool thing is, the kids are into gymnastics, so that's getting me up and moving and doing different things that I wouldn't want to, that I used to do. Yeah.
It's I bet it's very revitalizing for you as well, you know?
Oh yeah, it was really cool. Harper was like, "Dad, can you come and teach me a backflip?"
When was the last time you did do a backflip?
Never. Well, no, actually, no, I did. But it was when I was 18 last time. So, but I'm a good spotter.
Yeah, not that long ago.
No, not that. Nice move. So 19 years ago. Huh?
Yeah, jeez. A lifetime ago, nearly.
No, not even. I hope I'm living a lot longer than another 19 years. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Through those values that you've picked up and gained for yourself, which of those are you trying to instill into your kids? And how would you say you're trying to go about that?
Hard work and determination. I think the things that I've achieved, and same thing with Abby, it's just all been hard work and self-belief. So that's why Harper and the kids, we're getting them into gymnastics, because it's also, you want things that are hard, that's not easy, but if they keep working hard towards it, they'll achieve it. So then they get that kind of value of working hard. Oh, it's not easy, but I'm going to keep
Do it anyways.
getting there. And then they get those little wins. Like, oh, notice when you did this thing and it made that easier. So for them, that's one reason why we've got them into gymnastics. Plus, it's a big base.
Oh, it is. It's such a foundational skill. Balance, strength.
Everything. You can go into any sport and be somewhat pretty proficient if you have that skill set. So that's why that. So, and then just out on the property, like just leading by example. I'm not joking. It speaks volumes when your kids are just looking at their parents working hard, getting things achieved. It speaks louder than words.
Absolutely.
And that's how I learnt. I remember my dad biking to work on a bike with his tools in this little trolley he made when it was freezing cold. You know, one of those Christchurch things. It's just like, hey, you've got to just work hard. So it's, and same thing with my mum as well, working hard, doing lots of jobs on the sewing machine to earn extra money and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just lead by example.
What would you say some of your biggest successes have been in life so far? Like the CV type of things that you have for yourself?
My kids. It's really that simple. And just simple things when, like, I'm so proud when I'm working around the property and my kids are trying to help. Like, it's almost an argument that they're wanting to help.
Yep.
So I'm very proud of that. And like I've said it before, like this stuff might look all flashy and stuff, but I actually, it's not a importance or it's a care thing. Like, it's just something I like to do, but it's not of who I am, so it doesn't kind of really matter to me on that aspect. But it's more about the journey rather than the end goal for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like I guarantee, like, say for example, I've got this goal. Obviously, I want a GT3 RS, as you know.
Yep.
And I'll get it one day. Probably not with chiropractic money, but who knows? But it'll be through just working hard. And working hard, keep getting those singles, keep doing all the things you should do, and one day it'll happen. But it's not about the car, it's the journey. Although I will really, like, the car's not going to make me feel any better about myself, because
And the thing I think is really good is planning to enjoy the journey, and that's the process. Whereas a lot of people get tied to the milestone, and then when they hit the milestone, it's,
I'll be stoked. I'll be like, oh yeah, this is thing. But am I going to feel better of a person for it? Absolutely not. No way. Like, do I think I'm cooler or better than anybody else? Absolutely not. Like, I can tell you now, it's a fleeting moment. So I'll be stoked. Well done. Pat on the pat. Cool. Next goal. You know?
I get you.
It's all about the journey.
If you were going to describe chiropractic care to someone who didn't know about it, from never heard an ad, never seen anything about it, how would you explain it?
Okay. So it's got your Warren Fitness mechanics, okay? And then it's got your Formula One mechanic, okay? I don't care how well your body is functioning. I don't care if it's just functioning and getting by. If it's got symptoms, I care how well it's functioning. So that's the long short of it. So chiropractic care for me is to do with optimal performance at the body of all systems at all times, okay? So I do see chiropractic as a really, really big, important piece in everybody's lives. Everybody should have a chiropractor, just like a good dentist. Like, you need good teeth, and if you ignore them by the time that you realize that you need it, you've got a lot of damage in the background. Same thing with your spine. Okay, so, but how I kind of see chiropractic is it's one very big, important puzzle piece. Okay?
Okay, interesting.
You've got a picture of life, and it's got a whole pile of different puzzle pieces. Okay? Chiropractic is an important piece. And it might be right in the center, but then once you've got all the other bits of puzzle pieces, the picture comes together. And the reason why I say this is like you've got your health, your exercise, your mental well-being, diet, all those other things that are the big picture of health, okay?
Yep.
But if your spine's not functioning well and it's affecting your nervous system as being the piece that you're missing, the puzzle doesn't come together. Okay, so it's a really important aspect where people can be a bit stuck, not know where to start, and kind of, let's just start somewhere. Okay, let's start here. It's a great place to start. Let's get the ball rolling, get your body feeling better. Guess what? The amount of clients I've had that don't feel like moving, their body feels shit, and they feel a little bit better, then they feel like moving more. The more they feel like moving more, the more they start to think about fueling their body. As they start fueling their body, they start thinking about their mindset, how they're thinking, their friendship groups, a whole pile of stuff. It's a cascading thing. So health is not one aspect.
No way.
But it's a great place to start. So yeah, I'm all about chiropractic. I love chiropractic 'cause it's amazing. Everybody should have a chiropractor, and not. There's got lots of different types of chiropractic care too. So just because you might see this style on TikTok, that might not resonate.
Challenge.
That might not resonate for you. Guess what? There's got another chiropractic style that will. You've just got to figure out what's right for you, and you've just got to find the right person for you. Because I'm not the right practitioner for everybody, and certain clients, I'm not going to get the best out of them. They're better to go with someone else as well.
How can someone get in contact with you, or when should someone get in contact with you? If they're, what are some of the signs that someone needs to get chiropractic care?
A lot of the time people start chiropractic care because they're in pain. I do get people coming into chiropractic with, I just want my spine checked. I've got no pain. And guess what? These hands are very good at figuring out what's going on. I don't need to tell, like, you should be able to go to a practitioner or somebody in the health focus and you tell them nothing.
And they can figure it out.
Okay, the practitioners and the healthcare providers need to be putting their hands on people. They need to be palpating, seeing what's happening, see the tone of the body and the tissues and everything that's happening. Whereas obviously it's got other aspects internally that obviously helps if they do share if that's happening, because obviously it's going to change things a bit. But still, yeah,
What have been some of your biggest success stories through chiropractic care and through working?
Heaps.
Which stands out the most? Apart from me, obviously.
Yeah, I was just about to say, well, I'm looking at him. I'm just, you know what, yours has just been purely, you've done all the work yourself, okay? And this is the thing. It's very, very easy in today's world to be a victim.
Victim mindset.
Incredibly easy, okay? Incredibly easy. Now, I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah.
So I broke my neck in a snowboarding accident. I didn't know I broke it, okay? However, had I known, guess what? I wouldn't have done a lot of things that I would have wanted to do because, well, I probably still would have done them, but I would have had every other professional saying, you can't do this, you can't do this,
Throwing
you can't
doubt.
do this. Throwing doubt, then have me even questioning, can I do that? And then it'd be very easy for me to be on the, oh, well, it's because of this. It's because of this. Okay? So even if you've got certain things happening within your body or with life or whatever the situation, whether I've got, like, say for example, I'm proud of the person, my clients, that have not been active and they just start moving. I am just as proud of them as I am of somebody who's lost 30 kilos. Okay, so it's just growth. And then once they get to that point, I'm even more proud of them when they get to that next level. And it's, if that's their level and that's where they are and that's where they're happy, I'm cool with that. I'm happy with that. But if they want to go, actually, another layer comes off and they want to kind of push things and kind of grow more, or their body's ready for it, or they are mentally ready for it, and they're ready for that extra growth phase, I'm all for that too.
Yeah.
You
How
know?
do you think people can first start that growth phase? And like, because it's a mindset, really. You adapt. Like
Start with something small. Start with something that's so basic and easy.
Give me an example.
Okay, so if you're used to not moving at all, okay? Not moving at all, and everybody, what happens is, you'll see this in Jan. Everybody starts New Year's resolutions, okay?
Yep, there's the New Year's rush boom
Yeah.
at the gym, and I am dreading the wave of people.
It's going to be super busy, and
Yep.
it's going to be very busy for the first month.
Yep.
But what happens is they're going to set up an unsustainable goal, okay? Now, I'm all for goals, but make them manageable.
Yes.
Okay, and think about long term. What can I do in a year's time when life gets busy and all this stuff and all these other things? What can I do? Okay, so say for example, if your goal's to go training 5 times a week when you've done nothing,
You're going from 0 to 100.
I would say don't do that. Not because I'm being the handbrake. You can do that if you're feeling great, but have it that your tick, your sense of achievements at that 1 or 2. What can you do within a year's time, okay? I know it seems real backwards and a little bit like you're being the Achilles break, but indirectly you end up doing way more. So what happens is, okay, set yourself up for, in a year's time you can make sure you show up 2 times per week for yourself. Oh yeah, but I want to be doing more.
You always want to be doing more.
Well, do more. But 2 times. So you get to that 2 and you're like, fuck yeah, this is bonus. I've done this by Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm feeling great. I'm going to keep going. So it's bonus. You're constantly getting better. Whereas what happens is if somebody sets their goal of 4 and they get 2, they go, oh, I'm a failure. So how the mind works as well, they're like, well, you can't even do that. You don't get the dopamine hit because you've achieved. And guess what? You do less. So then even when you do achieve the following week, the 4, your mind still remembers, but you're fucking a bum that you didn't do the
this part, you
2
didn't hit the
last
goal.
time. So then it's like this flow-on effect because you don't have that kind of positive mindset around it. So I would say start small, do more,
Yeah.
I
always think a lot of people, I think it's a trait of perfectionism, and I like to call it they put hurdles up instead of running the race. Why would you make the race harder for you to go through by putting this wall up of I have to do this much to get there instead of just getting that easiest way you can get started? What got me into the gym initially was the habit set was putting my stuff in the car, and then I tagged it on to going to the gym after work.
Yeah, mine's. I don't enjoy going. I love jiu-jitsu, but like anybody, and I remember when I was doing Muay Thai and training heaps, every training day was like, I don't want to do it. But then I get there and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm in the moment.
Once
I'm
you
like,
get into
yeah, this is awesome. And same thing, when I'm there, I'm like, I'm into it.
Yeah. I think that's the big part for people. It's that
Just-
procrastination stage.
Yeah. And even same, if I want to go for a walk up the mountain, guess what? I'll put my clothes out the night before, because I know for a fact bed will be very comfortable and it's very easy for me not to get up and go up the mountain.
Yeah, paraphrasing from Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
You make the difficult habits that you have set in more difficult for you to do, and the good habits easier. You know, don't flip it. Or if it's like people who set that goal, I want to get up at 5 a.m. and go train for 3 hours. Instead, just say, I want to get up and put my shoes on.
Well, how I've done it for a lot of clients, and it's so simple, but I know they'll do more. So I say, okay, so you get home, I'm always really tired before I get home. I don't want to do any exercise or anything. Okay, well, just entertain me on this. Before you walk inside, just go down, walk a lamppost and back. Just that's it. They do it and they're like, oh, okay, well, let's just walk down to the end of the street, back. Oh, cool. And it's just that kind of repetition and like dopamine hit, even though it's like, I don't even want to sweat up. It's more the mindset kind of repetition that I want, because that's where your body's going, oh, I'm not a loser. I'm achieving this. Like I'm using these terms, like I'm using these extreme terms, but yeah. I don't think anybody's a loser, but I'm using that term, what some people's internal mindset can be.
I think it's about expanding that horizon for people and not setting the goal too big, because then you don't get that dopamine hit. Make it easy, make it digestible, set those first things in so you can grow whatever it is.
Yeah.
You don't just try and run a marathon out of the blue.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but it's really going to take it out of you.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Big time.
What would you say your top habits are that you have for yourself?
Whew. Top habits.
Yeah. Let's rephrase it. What's your kind of workflow? Drive to work, set up. How do you get going and get started for the day?
Okay, I start my day. I pull out of the driveway. I make sure I don't boost too hard until the engine's warm. I usually drive to Folk, but before I drive to Folk, I send a text telling them what my order is.
Folks, a coffee shop there.
Hans does a phenomenal job.
Phenomenal coffee.
But what the actual important thing about my morning is I listen to podcasts. Okay. I will listen to them every morning. If I'm not feeling it in the shift, there's a good chance I was listening to the radio. If I'm not in my flow and I'm like, oh, why am I just flat?
Not into it.
I'm just not into it, or why am I feeling blah? It's because I was listening to the radio. So I love learning, and I think people have got this aspect with regards to thinking learning needs to be this big sit down kind of
difficult
process, but learning is just growth. And when you're continually growing, you're continually growing. It's only going to be like, yeah, sweet. I didn't know that. I learned something new. Or you're rethinking and reshaping your own self-thought patterns, because I don't know everything. I want my kind of mindset. I want to be rethinking everything and questioning everything I currently believe, and really retesting myself onto why I believe that.
Understanding those core beliefs.
Understand that, and is there any new information that's going to challenge my current belief structure?
I love that. Learning is just growth. I don't think I've heard that before. That's really good.
Cool. Well, you learned to hear. Well, when you think about it though, you feel good by learning.
You do.
As long as it's not forced, obviously. But when it's self-directed, and you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to sit down. It's time that, like, I listen to all my podcasts while I'm driving. And it was quite funny. I've got CPD points that I need to do. And I asked, I kind of hit them up. I was like, got them on the spot. Can I use some podcasts for type B type? And they were like,
CBD, sorry, what?
CPD. Continue practicing development.
Oh, okay.
Point. So I constantly have to learn anyway. And in certain, it's got Group A, Group B. On the Group B is not so formal. And I was like, can I use this? Yep, great. I've got thousands of hours already logged. It's not even a big deal because I'm constantly listening to podcasts.
And it's an easy way to do it too.
Easy way. About all different stuff, and this is the catch. All the information from the top things. Like, I've paid to be at lectures and paid a lot of money to be there. And guess what? My best lectures have been in the car by myself, and it's been like, holy moly, that was dope.
Pick up on
that
those
was
points.
cool. That was awesome. And guess what? They were all free. You know, you don't need to spend money for information nowadays.
We're in the age of information nowadays, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I think at the same time it can kind of be overwhelming because there's so much information out there.
Well, that's the same thing with regards to health as well. It's got so
Correct.
much information, and I know a lot with regards to health. However, when you know a lot, you'll also know that it'll contradict itself in so many different aspects. This type says Himalayan salt's good, this other type says Himalayan salt's not good. All this other information, the more you look at, and you've got basically a plethora of stuff to kind of decode. But the good thing is you just make a start.
How do you go about decoding and navigating that though? Because there's so much. For someone who hasn't deep dived into that, you got hundreds of thousands of different pieces.
Start the
to pick
basics,
from.
don't complicate it. It's really simple, okay? The 3 important aspects: thoughts, traumas, toxins. Okay? So you want to clear out traumas. Obviously, chiropractic helps with all these, this lot, the 3 T's. Okay? Thoughts, okay? Work stress, relationship stress, financial stress, getting all those little affairs in order so it's not affecting how your mind thinks. If you're having a hard time, going to a professional, talking about different things, as long as it's professional, it's giving you tools and mindsets, tools to address and move forward rather than kind of letting you be in the slump of the victim mentality. And then it's got toxins. What are you putting into your body? Okay, real simple. Are you getting enough adequate sleep? You know, all those little aspects, like, can I do something to change what I'm doing? Like, say for example, I had this gamer guy came in. Gamer guy. And you know that, have you seen online how it's got the new age individual, how they've got the gaming headband?
Yep.
He had
I
that.
know what you mean. And actual, like, sunken in.
He had it.
Oh, wow.
I was like, how much do you game? He was like, a lot. I was like, you can feel your indent of your headphones.
Wow.
And I think he was like, oh, whoa. He was like, so he was really proud of really proud of saying this to me the other day. He was like, I've limited my gaming to 1 hour per day. I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's for what he was doing.
Yep.
That's huge. Just him kind of doing it.
Being
And he was
able to
like,
monitor and
he was like,
control.
so and he was like, I'm gonna go back home after this adjustment and go home and game, and then I'll go for a walk. And I was like, well, what's stopping you doing the walk now before you go game? Nothing. I was like, why don't you go now? It'd be great post adjustment. Go for a walk. You don't want to be sitting down sedentary for a whole hour.
Because you do recommend walking after chiropractor,
100%. So you want to get that body moving. You don't want to be sedentary. Your body's not designed to sit for long periods of time. So you want to get it moving, you know. But yeah, and he was like, you know what? Yeah, nothing is stopping me. You could see the light bulb tick.
Yeah,
that kind
oh,
of
geez.
post self-belief, like that limiting belief. Why did I just say I was going to do it after? Because it's going to be easy for me to not do it. And then it would be that dopamine thing would be like, oh, you don't get the dopamine hit. So he did it straight away, and then guess what? He was like, oh, sweet. So he did it again the next day. That little flow on.
Definitely. And it's just building little bits and pieces from there. What was one of the questions I want to ask? It'll come back to me. If you were going to start a game with all the knowledge and all the skills you have today, from the beginning of your work career, where would you start and what would you do?
I would, I am telling so many young clients, I would learn about compounding interest. Learn the power and the effects of it. And really do the compounding calculator, even if you're kind of putting money aside, even if it's so little that
in terms of investing, are you meaning?
Investing in long term and all these bits and pieces. Obviously, I've always been a student where I've had $15 a week for food. So
the classic student life.
The classic student life. But as soon as I could, or you just actually have that kind of mindset where I'm constantly, even if, okay, sweet, you've got that $15, well, guess what? You have $14.90 goes towards food. Well, let's put 50 cents. You know, I know it seems stupid and insignificant, but that kind of mindset, put it towards something. That's what I would change about myself, but otherwise nothing too much, to be honest.
You'd still go into chiropractic care today?
100%. I love this as a profession. I wouldn't. I could see myself being an orthopedic surgeon, like how I was originally going down. However, I could not see myself living the lifestyle of it, and that was the catch that made me pick chiropractic. So I wouldn't be able to spend time with my family like how I do, and that's a big part
of who you are. It's your values,
and my values. So. And obviously that's why it's got such a high divorce rate as well in the medical profession as well. And I know a lot of people in medicine, and it's challenging. They work really hard. They don't get paid enough for it.
And the one I remember is dentists and mental health rates.
I've lots of dentists as well, and and guess what? They come and see me. They've got a good chiropractor. But it's I would say I love doing what I do, so I wouldn't change it, to be honest.
And what would you say you're working towards at the moment? What are some of your goals that you're kind of pushing on?
Goal is about getting that car back up and running, actually. That's my biggest goal at the moment. Closing tabs. My mind works better when I don't have too many things open. But obviously I've had a lot open for a period of time, which is not bad things. I tick like that and I run, but I'm getting to that stage where I don't want to have so many things open. So just get real simple with things and get little jobs done that I would be thinking about done. So
free up the mental space.
Free up the mental space so I can do more things and spend more time doing things that I want to do, like either racing or spend times with the wife and kids and stuff like that, which is cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if you were gonna disappear tomorrow, what would be a phrase or a sentence you would want to leave on this earth, imparting your knowledge on?
Are you really asking me that?
Yep.
How it pays off. Oh, it pays off, baby.
It's almost cheesy to the point.
It's so cheesy. I've always said it, and even times I've even said it when I don't believe it. Back when I was studying, and it was quite funny. I had one of my screensavers actually when I was studying and doing all the late nights, and every single time I'd open up my computer and on my back screensaver it said, "Fuck this, I'm going to become a dope dealer." No, I'm going to become a drug dealer. And it was just, I just always laugh. But now I'm the legal type in natural highs. So, it's cool. It's cool. So it'd be hard work pays off, and just kind of back yourself, because if you think you can get there, you will. Okay? And you just need to focus on everybody. Unfortunately, we're in the day and age where everybody celebrates the Hail Marys. Okay? They celebrate the glory shots, the dunks, but they don't realize games are won in defense. Okay? The reason why most great people, like say for example Gordon Ryan in jiu-jitsu, is phenomenal. He's just unreal. His defense impeccable. Same thing. Just all those little things. So focusing on what you're really good at, enjoy it. Just have fun. Because if you're having fun, you're not really working, you're enjoying it. And that's the thing, you're impacting people around you. And it's not about what you do, it's about how much you enjoy it. That really shows to be the difference. So that would be it for me.
Yeah, I think that's you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Well, we'll wrap that there.
Yeah, well, thank you. Awesome. 10 day.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the Master Your Mindset podcast. We hope the information in here will help you evolve into becoming the best version of yourself. To keep up to date with further episodes and what Scendent is up to, follow us across our social media platforms. Keep in touch, and as always, send it.